On the inverse, we've also got this story about all these millionaires migrating around the world. There's this huge brain drain, money drain from the UK, 9,500 millionaires leaving the UK, going to where? Going to Singapore, 3,500 going to Singapore, 2,500 going to Australia, 3,000 going to Canada, 4,000 going to the USA. China is losing so many millionaires. And again, a lot of people, they see Chinese and they're like, oh, you know, the CCP. There's Chinese people and there's CCP. Now, Chinese people, there's many associated with the CCP, but there's tons of them just trying to get their money out of China. And they're actually trying to run away from the CCP as well. And they are driving prices up here. But if they're going to invest in Australia and build jobs for Aussies, okay, maybe we should look at that, especially if it's not critical infrastructure.
Well, just wait and see what happens with France. I mean, obviously with the recent elections, and they've managed to tilt the vote in the left's favour.
Yeah.
Now they want to bring in a 90% tax on people. I think, is it over $400,000, I think? So all the people with money aren't going to want to hang around paying a 90% tax. They're going to leave the country. What's that going to do to the country and the economy? Now, it could be good for Australia if they come here and they actually invest their money here. But yeah, it's crazy. Again, it's, work as hard as you want and we'll share your money to everyone else who doesn't want to. It's that socialist ideology, and it's just going to destroy the country. And I'm worried that that's where we're heading as well.
As we said last week when we were here during the election, the people who always wind up paying the price for these moronic socialist policies are the middle class, because the very, very rich people can afford to leave. And the ones who aren't making much money, there's nothing to take from them. So it's the middle class who are making money but can't afford to leave, and they wind up bearing the brunt of all of it.
Well, they end up getting pushed down to the lower class. And this is what you've been seeing over the last couple of years. The middle class is slowly disappearing. We're getting pushed down into the lower class, and the upper class, like you said, they can leave. So they're moving further away. So it becomes harder and harder to bridge these gaps. And that's with all these bloated policies and taxes and all sorts of things that just continuing to build on top of each other and creating more stress and weight on top of, as you said, the middle class, because they're going to bear the brunt of it.
Yeah, small business owners, just people who actually employ people. It's just typical socialist madness. And as always, I mean, history is learning our lessons the hard way. That's what history is. And I do actually have a lot of hope for Europe. I've got a lot of hope, particularly for Britain. And I've got a lot of hope for Australia. But my view is that things will get better, but they must get worse.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. I was kind of hoping that it was worse enough now that things need to change, but I think it still probably needs to go a little bit further, sadly.
Yeah, I think the UK's it's going to get worse, with Nigel, by the time he comes back round.
How long are their terms? Are they 3 or 4 years? Five.
Yeah.
They can go earlier, though, much earlier.
Yeah.
So sometimes it has to get worse before people actually...
It's definitely going to get worse with that sort of term.
And I think America's maybe there now.
Yeah.
It's all the wheels are falling off. So, Australia still, I think, has a way to go. But at the end of the day, kids, you got to make it economically, you've got to make it so that people feel comfortable and can afford to have kids. So you've got to fix that, all comes back to our power, the same, even things like, in the construction industry, your industry there, you've got a guy like just controlling the traffic, getting, 150, 200 grand.
Don't go there, man.
Again, it comes back to creating
it's so costly.
A living on a job that shouldn't really be used to create a living. It's just...
Used to be common sense that would wave the traffic through.
Which you also
were better.
Brought up a good point with the US election. This is one of the reasons I kind of wonder whether we might go into an early election as well. Because if you think about it, if, let's say, Trump wins, right-leaning government, and things improve drastically, it's going to make a lot of people over here go, wait a minute, what's going on? And if that is successful and their economy starts to pick up and their cost of living improves and their inflation drops, then a lot more people over here are going to be questioning that, and that could help us. So the longer our elections are held back, I think the better it is. Obviously, Trump still has to win the election.
Yeah.
And I think, look, if it's a legitimate election, I think he will. But if he does win and we wait long enough and we can see the results of what happens when he's in power, it could be beneficial for us. So that's another one of the reasons why I think they could hold an early election over here, because if they time it around the same time, it gives them an opportunity to at least get voted in before any major changes start happening internationally.
I think on the early election thing, there's a few considerations. The US, they do affect us, but I don't think that to that extent. I reckon there's probably probably 7 or 8 other issues, Australian-centred. Labor are in the business of getting in government. I think the top priorities they have is the economy. When's the best time to go with the economy? Are the tax breaks going to be too, should we wait until the tax breaks come and then it's disappointing to people and lose government, or should we do it earlier? Should we do it before or after the Queensland election where it's looking like, we're going to lose it? If we let Labor go in Queensland first, they'll get thumped and people will take their anger out on them and they won't take it out on us. Whereas if we go early, maybe they won't. On top of that, there's the WA election in, I think, March or April next year. So, I mean, there's a lot of considerations.
There's also the new Muslim possible party, because one of the things, if they decide to go ahead and create a party, it actually takes 3 months. But if they see that happening, once the writs are done, all that stops. So they can actually prevent the party from being formed if they call an early election. If they leave it as a late election, there's still plenty of time for them, because it takes approximately 3 months.
Not if there's a sitting MP or senator.
But she has no. But they have. But she's not part of a party. She's an independent. So that
she can easily just.
But can she create? Can they create a party out of? Oh, they can out of the blue.
How did the UAP come about? Craig.
Yeah, but that was still well more than 3 months.
Oh, right.
That was was like 6 or 7 months before, because they approached me back in October of 21, and by January 22, the candidates had been picked, and the election was in May. So that was still 5 months before.
My understanding is, and I got my compliance guy to look at this, if you have a sitting member in the lower house or the upper house, pretty much get immediately registered, pretty much.
Okay.
And
I thought they had to be a member of the party beforehand, not. Okay, or maybe I'm
no, because that's how they did it. And they were able to get around a whole bunch of things with regards to the membership requirements, because they had Craig Kelly. That's why it was critical they got Craig on at that time.
Well, but they had a massive push for members, obviously.
Yeah,
so,
but in terms of the checks, terms of they skipped all of that.
Okay.
They skipped all of that because they had Craig. That was what that bill was restricting them from when they passed it to change the name of the Libertarian Party. Look, there's a lot to it. I actually want to do a longer segment on this at some point. But this Muslim vote, you're not wrong. The longer they have, the better organised they will be.
Yep.
We've got an independent senator in Senator Payman in WA who's just left the Labor Party. You've got an independent senator in Victoria in... what's her name? She used to be in the Greens in Victoria. She's now an independent. I forgot her name. She's the one that makes a fool of herself all the time.
Not Thorpe.
Lydia Thorpe.
Okay.
So she's another independent, and she totally loves Palestine and totally loves that Muslim issue. Obviously, on top of her issues, which are the Aboriginal stuff.
On top of her issues.
Yeah, well, yeah, just a Freudian slip. And on top of that, we've got this Muslim Votes Matters group, which is like it's like the get up of the Muslim community. And then on top of that, you've got the Muslim Vote, which is another group which might actually get behind these candidates in specifically Western Sydney and some Victorian areas. Labor may go as early as possible in order to actually preempt that.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I think all these are way more important to them than what is going on in America, because they're hanging by a thread. They've only got a couple seats, in majority in the lower house.
Yep.
But anyway,
definitely very interesting. I think
yeah,
the next
there's a
couple
lot
of months
there.
is going to be interesting to watch what happens.
100%. Yeah, yeah.
I'm looking at the real clear politics polls on America, and Trump is leading significantly in 80% of the battleground states.
Right.
He's doing really well.
Right, right.
I mean, at the end of the day, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But